There are so many things we could start with when learning about airplanes. But for those of us who are aviation lovers, there's something that's always grabbed our attention first. I'm talking about those lights on airplanes. I remember looking up at the night sky and seeing a plane passing overhead. The rules and procedures for these lights might be an internal thing for pilots and operators, but for us, they were the thing that pulled our eyes away from the stars. When you'd be staring up at the night sky, wondering if there's life up there, and suddenly, out of the darkness, an airplane with its blinking lights would pass by. It reminded you, right now, there are people up there flying over us. Maybe that's what kept us searching the skies, looking for signs of life, or just the excitement of knowing something's happening above. And maybe it's those very lights that have pulled us here today, sitting in front of this flat screen, trying to learn something about flying in the infinite sky. So I think this is a perfect place to start our aviation journey. Not with heavy math, physics, or mechanics, but with something soft, familiar, and magical. Something from childhood, when we saw that red light in the sky and told our parents, "Look, there's a plane!" That red beacon flashing in our eyes. Maybe that's what first sparked our love for flight. All right, no more talking. Let's jump into the cockpit and explore one of the most interesting and most used panels in the Airbus A320, the exterior lights. So, first up, the famous red light we call the beacon. It's not the first switch on the panel, it's right in the middle, but it's the one that really catches your eye. It messes with the clean pattern of the night sky, pulling your gaze away from Sirius, Canopus, or the Pleiades cluster, straight to itself, a beautiful damn red light. The beacon light, also known as the anti-collision light, shows that the aircraft is alive, that it's active. Sometimes they're called rotating beacons, a throwback to the days when they literally spun. On modern jets, they're flashing red lights, one on top and one on the bottom of the fuselage. They come on the moment the pilots start the engine start sequence, and they only turn off after the engines are completely shut down. Today's Boeings and Airbuses use LEDs for these lights. Their red flash on time is noticeably longer than the old xenon ones. If you ever see a plane on the ramp, the fastest way to tell if the engines are running, or about to, is to look for those flashing red beacons. They're also important for making the aircraft visible at night to other planes and to the control tower. So remember, before starting the engines, this is one of the first switches we flip on. Next up, the strobe lights. 3 bright, synchronized, flashing white lights, one on each wingtip and one on the tail cone. On Airbus, you have 2 modes, on and auto. In auto, the strobes switch on automatically when the main gear is no longer compressed, basically when you're airborne. In Ontario, they just flash constantly, no matter where you are. Usually before entering or crossing an active runway, strobes are set to on. They stay that way until the aircraft clears the runway at the destination. You might be thinking, why not just leave them in auto? And you'd be right. Auto is a safety measure. Even if a pilot forgets to switch them manually, they'll still be on in the air. And here's a little spotting tip. The flash pattern can tell you if you're looking at an Airbus or a Boeing at night. Airbus has 2 strobes on each wingtip that fire in sequence, a double flash. Boeing has just 1 strobe per wingtip, so it's a single flash. So from now on, maybe instead of spotting constellations, you'll be spotting airplane types. Of course, with aviation apps today, you can just point your phone at the plane and see where it's coming from, where it's going, and even its altitude and speed. Premium versions can even show you some passenger details. Still, there's something special about lying in the grass on a camping trip, staring at the night sky, when suddenly a blinking airplane passes overhead. Maybe you'll smile and think, "Ah, that's another damn Airbus." Close your eyes and drift off to sleep. All right, moving on. The next switch. Wing lights, also called inspection lights. These shine on the leading edges of the wings and the engine inlets. They're used to check for ice at night or in icing conditions. They can also be switched on for extra visibility when crossing a runway at night. Pilots often use them before takeoff or on approach, especially to be more visible to other traffic. Now, NAV and logo lights. Nav lights are the classic position lights. Red on the left wing tip, green on the right, white on the tail. They show an aircraft's orientation and are on any time the aircraft is powered. Each one usually has a backup bulb, so there's always light if one fails. Logo lights shine on the tail to light up the airline logo, mostly for visibility at night or in low light conditions. They usually come on between sunset and sunrise, when the main gear is compressed or slats are extended, and they can be turned off above certain altitudes, like flight level 100. Next, runway turn-off lights. These are mounted on the nose gear and shine to the sides to light up taxiway intersections or runway edges when turning. They're used together with taxi lights and are especially useful in low visibility. Then we have the landing lights, labelled Land L and Land R. High-intensity white lights, usually under the wings or near the nose gear. They have three positions: off, on, and retract. On means extended and lit. Off means off but extended. Retract means off and retracted. Typically, we turn them on just before takeoff. Keep them on until passing 10,000 feet. Retract them, then turn them on again below 10,000 feet on approach. Finally, the nose lights. Two modes, taxi and TO, takeoff. Taxi lights are less intense, used for ground movement. Takeoff lights are brighter and used when lining up on the runway until the gear is retracted. They come back on when the gear is lowered for landing and stay on until the aircraft clears the runway. So that's the Airbus A320 exterior lighting system, from the magical red beacon that might have been your first spark of aviation love, to precise and regulated lights that keep the skies safe. Next time you look up at the night sky, maybe you'll know exactly what those blinking lights mean. And hopefully, you won't mistake a string of Starlink satellites for an airplane. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video about another part of the A320neo. Always stay on top.